Urban Media Today is your source for entertainment, news, sports, and lifestyle. It's your online resource for health and fitness, providing tips to decrease your heart disease or increase your good spirits. When you can't find who made the top picks in HBCU sports or what part of the country is most exciting or affordable to travel with the entire family, Urban Media Today is there to provide you with all that you need and just a click away. Log on to urbanmediatoday.com now. Find us on social media. Urban Media Today, your lifestyle information and blog website.
Welcome to the Give It Up podcast on urbanmediatoday.com, where we give it up for excellence, greatness, leadership, and all things sports. Yes, we are using sports as a metaphor for life, having great discussions with various people. And today I have my cousin, and it's the first time he's on the show. We're going to talk about all things the NBA, review the past year, sort of break it down just like we did last week with the M&M show, Matt Beauclair, and get a different perspective on the NBA last year, as well as, you know, what his beliefs are about this year. But this is my cousin, Deronne Felton, married to my cousin sister, Paige Felton. So let's welcome him to the show. Before he says a word, though, this is what I got to say about him. He is one. Listen, you guys, I was going to say he's one of the baddest hoopers on the planet, but he also tried out and was in the NBA draft camp. So when he comes to this show, he knows what he's talking about. That's all I got to say. And he's in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's where my cousins live. And my family's down there. That's where my whole family's from. Originally, our grandmother bought us from Raleigh. So we got history down there. And my cousin Deronne is making history as we speak. What's up, cuz?
Hey, Margo, how you doing? Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, listen, we're going to jump into this. I got to say this also before we start. I usually sneak into the room. This has been for the last, I don't know. How long you been married, Deronne?
25 years,
Okay.
26 this year.
I'm going to say that. For the past 26 years, I would sneak into the room and listen to Deronne debate with my Uncle Daniel about LeBron James.
Yep, that's right.
And I'm just saying,
Absolutely.
I was always on the LeBron team. So you can figure out what team Deronne was on, which was my Uncle
Team
Daniel's
MJ.
team. So yeah, we'll jump into that too. I should have got my Uncle Danny on here. Give it not, yeah, 'cause he can school us on LeBron for sure. All right, so let's review the past year. The first question I want to ask you is, what was your favorite story from the NBA last year? Either you can go bubble. Well, yeah, that would be last year from the bubble. What's your favorite bubble story or 2020 story?
I would probably have to say the push that the Nuggets made in the playoffs. Because to me, they were like an unsung team. Nobody was really talking about them real heavily in the West. And I thought that they gave their opposition all they could handle. And I think every game they play, they seem to get better and better as the games went along. I'm trying to recall who they lost to. Was it the Lakers?
I think it was the Lakers in the end. You know,
It was the Lakers in the end.
Fell to the Lakers in the end.
But nobody had them predicted to be in the finals. I mean, I think they were like an afterthought for the most part. But I like the way they came together as a team and how the pieces just really formed a nice puzzle. Again, I'm always for the underdog. I'm 6 foot tall. I was a 6 foot tall point guard. Always one of the smallest guys on the floor, but I had a dog in me. So I like that dog they had last year where they competed with the Lakers in the playoffs.
I love it. What's the point guard's name? I can't think of his name right now. That's a shame.
Oh my gosh, you would have asked me now.
I know. He had the best play. He had the best highlight reels of the whole NBA bubble. That 360 layup. We're going to get back to him. We know his name. Come on, you guys. We blanking right now. We'll look it up.
It was a former Kentucky player.
That's your boy.
You get old, that's what happens. Your memory slips a little bit.
Yeah, once you start, like, it's real. Like
memory slips, I'm sorry.
Nah, you're good. So, all right. So my second question. So you like the Denver team. So what do you think? The Lakers won, obviously. What do you think about where does LeBron fit in Laker lore?
I mean, arguably, he has to be one of the top 5 players. And even though he hadn't been there in terms of longevity, in terms of years, service with the team, but I think what he stands for, his identity. I mean, because he's a filmmaker, you know, he's a ball player, arguably one of the top 2, top 3 all time. And you insert him into that team and they won a title. So I would say he has to be arguably in the top 5, maybe even top 3 all time in terms of impact. You know, again, he don't have the tenure or the longevity, but the impact he made in the city, in the country at large, and certainly with the Lakers organization, I would have to say he has to be top 3, top 5 all time in terms of impact.
And by the way, it's Jamal Murray. I don't know how we blanked
Jamal
on
Murray,
that.
that's him. That's the guy. That's the guy.
The Joker and Jamal Murray.
I couldn't think of his name. Thank you.
Come on, we had to bring that out.
Yeah, Jamal Murray. That's right. He was rated threes too.
Let me get one more.
That's the one. Thank you.
Let's get one more story because I like to sort of merge sports and then just the broader aspect of society. So when the Milwaukee Bucks decided, excuse me, not to play their game, and then that ripple effect, not just across all sports in this country, but sports in other countries decided to also walk off the field or the court. And what were your thoughts about that whole thing? And then maybe just in general, the athletes' impact on societal issues.
You know, my stance always has been, you need to go with your conviction and what you believe to be right or true, and not, you know, have it contaminated by the masses or the noise around you. Oftentimes, I think athletes, just like people in society in general, are influenced by, you know, outside noise, opposed to what's in your heart and what's in your mind. So I think when a player decides to walk off or to take a knee or whatever their position is, you got to honor and respect that. That's that person's conviction. That's what they decide to do. Now, rather than forcing judgment or conjuring up ideas of what they ought to do, let that person stand for what they believe in. So I certainly feel like every athlete has the right to express themselves in that capacity. And I'm not one to judge it one way or the other.
Oh, I like that. You sound like me back in the day when the O.J. Simpson verdict came out. I was like, we're basically influenced by the media, and when we're not really thinking about evidence or anything like that. And so I just refused to be influenced by outside sources, and I chose to not have an opinion. So that's a flashback to the Bronco. That's what your answer reminded me of. So absolutely take your individual stance. But I think we can speak to, though, in team sports, because it is a team aspect. There has to be some type of consensus that you come to when you make a decision like that, not to play. And if we rewind the clock, it was because I believe his name was Jacob Blake, was shot in the back 7 times by police in front of his kids. And so I could see anybody that was Black being like, oh my goodness. And so I guess the Milwaukee Bucks decided that was a stance that they had to make collectively. So yeah, that was a serious story. Now let's talk about this. The Last Dance. What was a 10-part series? What did you think about The Last Dance? And are you the Jordan or in the LeBron team? I already think I know this answer about the GOAT. Jordan or LeBron? I'm just saying. Start with you about the series and then go into that.
You know what? It's interesting because I think it showed Michael Jordan as a real person. I think it detailed and examined his life, his good qualities, his bad qualities, his flaws. We all got them. And I think it also really went into details of how he interacted with his staff, his teammates. You know, he wasn't a saint. And I think people sometimes want to illustrate him when it comes to the Gatorade commercials or McDonald's or, all the, the Hanes underwear, whatever the case may call for. He was always seen as this deity almost, for lack of a better term. And, people saw that he was almost like Mr. Untouchable. Well, he was a real guy. He had real issues, real challenges in his life, and I think with that being said, the series exposed him as a real person. Now, in terms of the GOAT, he's still my man. I still got him at top because of what he did conventionally. Don't get me wrong. I like LeBron. I think LeBron, to me, in totality, had more of a societal impact, a more of a cultural impact, more of a racial impact. I think LeBron, has taken stances against mistreatment of African American men, law enforcement. I mean, he's been very outspoken about those things, whereas Jordan kind of played it close to the vest. He didn't say a whole lot about it. And I think because of that, he's been kind of demonized in some ways of really, not interjecting his opinions about it.
And
Now,
that goes
where I
back to
don't,
what you said previously, where
right,
people should not, and I believe that too, people should not be forced into something that they're not comfortable with. But also,
right, right,
as an
right,
individual, examine why you're not comfortable with that when you have
correct,
that
correct.
platform and you are a part of that
Yep,
group. So it has to be twofold.
right. And I would say also with that point you just made, I think also politically, Jordan didn't want to get involved with a lot of societal or community issues simply because of his brand. I think he
That's what I'm
was,
saying.
and
Examine.
again, I don't want to judge him. I'm just saying I think he was more concerned about his brand being tarnished
Mhm.
versus, okay, if I put my foot out here and I make a comment about some injustice or something I don't agree with, is that going to tarnish my image, my brand? I think he was more concerned about that. When The Last Dance came out, I think he kind of put that to the side a little bit
Yeah.
and said, let me just unveil who I really am. The
Mhm.
cigar smoking, profanity laced tirades, the punching, Steve Kerr in the eye. I mean, I think he didn't want that to be seen at one point. And I think when you get older in life, you start reflecting a lot more and you start really looking at, you know, I don't know. I guess it kind of motivates you to be more honest and more sincere about who you really are. And I think he kind of went, 360 on that.
That's true. And then once you reach a certain level of status too, you don't really care about that much what people think.
Yeah.
So he might have got to that point where
Yeah, he ain't playing
let's,
no more.
let's do this. You know what I'm saying? He was like, let's do this. But this is
Right,
what
right.
we came up with several episodes ago, years ago, actually, because I think this is now my second or third year doing the podcast. Um, the GOT,
Hmm.
as opposed to the GOAT, the greatest of this time. So for me,
Okay.
Michael Jordan was the GOT of his time, and LeBron
Right,
James is the GOT of his time. Difference being, and this is why it makes LeBron the GOAT for me, is because he was not only what we just talked about, the GOAT on the court, right?
right,
The GOT on the court, I should say, but he is also the GOT off the court. So to me,
right,
when you take a person in totality,
right,
that's what elevates him, because greatness is not just one dimensional. But if we're
right,
talking
right,
about basketball, yeah, I can see people arguing
right.
Michael Jordan. But if we're talking about greatness in general, when you combine what we've seen them do on and off the court, then
Right.
I got LeBron at the top. What you got when I explain it like that? When I
You know
explain
what?
it like that, Mr. Felton.
I can split hairs on that because I do respect to the utmost LeBron. I like him as a ball player. I think part of it I'm going to admit my own bias because that's the generation I grew up in more so was Jordan's. And nowadays, I see LeBron and what he's doing on and off the court. Yes, I would say he's a more wholesome or well-rounded athlete, whereas Jordan was not. Jordan to me was an athlete, and that's kind of where it stopped for him. Whereas LeBron has been full circle. Now, one other person that I also want to interject is Kobe. Now,
Yeah, bring in Kobe.
I think he deserves a spot in this argument as well.
Mhm.
I don't know so much about societal in terms of the impact LeBron has had, but as far as an athlete, titles, MVPs, influence in LA, I think Kobe's right up there.
I,
So
I don't disagree.
yeah,
And I didn't rock with Kobe on a what should I say, a personal level when he
correct,
was
correct,
playing. He wasn't somebody I was like, oh, I'm a big Kobe fan.
right,
Just for various reasons. And my grandmother always said, speak light of the dead.
right, right,
But
right,
after but I always respected his game, and I continue to do that. But after he stopped playing, is when I
right,
became like Kobe's greatest fan. Like
right.
at the time of his death, I'm going to tell you, I was one of Kobe's biggest fans
Okay,
because, like LeBron, he was influencing so many things, just from the idea of female athletes,
right,
quality and getting the respect that they deserve, to writing books to just being involved in the community on every level.
Right.
I just felt like yeah, he was doing his thing and left his footprints for us to follow. So yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. All right, so let's fast forward. That was last year. Let's talk about this year. So
Right.
what stands out for you this year? There's a lot
Hmm.
of stuff we can talk about. We can talk about Harden, like basically crying his way out of Houston.
Right.
Pouting his
Right.
way. I don't think he cried, but pouting his way out of Houston to get to the Nets. What's that team going to do? Is Kevin Durant going to be healthy? Is Anthony Davis ever going to be healthy? Can LeBron repeat with the Lakers? Is Joel Embiid the MVP? There are so many stories right now. Is Donovan Mitchell?
Right. Right. You got Zion Williamson.
How good
Yeah.
is he?
Oh yeah.
Zion? First year.
Yeah.
Sort of first year, but Zion just
Right.
destroyed everything. Yeah, pick one and
Right.
we'll go with
Right.
it.
Huh. You know, I'm going to go with Donovan Mitchell with Utah.
Okay.
And the reason being is that, to me, the market he's in is hurting him, unfortunately. It's a lot like Dame Dollar in Portland. The markets, they're in these mid-major markets. And people know about them. I mean, you know about them. Hoop heads know about them. People
Right.
in NBA circles know about them. But the public at large, people don't really follow basketball. Who is Donovan Mitchell? Who's Dame Lillard? You say LeBron, grandma in the basement know who LeBron is. I mean, they
That's
heard the
right.
name, you know? I mean, I think Dame and Donovan, those two to me are unsung heroes in the NBA
They
because
really
of the markets they're based in. You put those guys in New York, you put them in Boston,
Woo!
Chicago, LA, it's a whole different story we're talking about.
True. That's
I
true.
mean, now we're talking MVP for either one of those guys because they're getting it in, playing on, I don't mean this as a knock, but they're not necessarily surrounded with the greatest NBA talent. I mean, they got good guys on their team, no doubt, but they're not stockpiled like LA is, you know. So I just think Donovan Mitchell, Dame Lillard, those two guys to me are two of my favorite current NBA players because what they're doing in the market, they're doing it in. And they're not like trying to force their way out of these markets. I mean, they sign nice contracts. They're not trying to leave these places. And I always wonder why. Is it better to be a big fish in a small pond? Or you want to be, you want to be swimming with all the fishes on the way to a title. So I don't know this guys personally, so I don't know what their MO is, but it makes you wonder, do they want to be the big dog in their little small market and hopes to win a title at some point? Or are they going to want to force their way out of that market to a larger market, which will breed opportunities in media, commercials? I mean, Dame got a few commercials. I've never seen Donovan Mitchell in a commercial. You know what I mean? So it makes you wonder, he's a commercial, he has a great personality in interviews. He's very articulate and well-spoken, but he doesn't get the same airtime. Well, let's just say this, he don't get any airtime. But put him in a major market, I mean, dude will blow up, but it's just, he's stuck in that market right now. So I like to talk about little guys.
That makes me want to jump right to the All-Star game where Steph Curry and Damian Lillard were shooting basically from the locker room like it was a layup. And then Donovan Mitchell had the hardest dunk I may have ever seen in my life. Yes, both of those players are amazing. And I believe you're absolutely right. If they were in another city like in LA, like in New York, I don't see why New York are one of the places who are trying to get them, where it would be over. Like everybody would be sporting their jerseys. We would know their name. It would be crazy. So I definitely agree with that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the MVP, since we were talking about people that may have been the MVP. So who's your MVP, and do you agree what most people are saying right now, Joel Embiid? And I almost can't disagree. He is doing stuff that is illegal almost.
I'll be honest with you. No one jumps off the pages for me right now. I think there's a cluster of guys kind of bottleneck in the race. Nobody's really, to me, separated themselves at this juncture of the season, personally. It feels like a lot of guys are in that same bottleneck. And you just drop names on a bunch of guys who are in that bottleneck. But for us, who's separate themselves from the pack, I'm not really convinced of who that person is as of yet. Maybe give it another month or so. But right now, I'm like, I don't have a clear-cut favorite.
And see, my belief is always that we try to give the MVP too early.
Yeah,
So,
okay,
and then there's no consistent criteria. I wish like
right.
they need a definition because everybody's idea is different than other people.
Hmm.
See, mine is you're the MVP because you make everybody on your team better and your
Right,
team wins.
right.
You're making your entire team better and your team wins should be part of the equation to me.
Sure, sure,
And
sure.
you're the best player on the team. So
Right, right.
if we just said them three things, it eliminates a lot of people. Then you can focus on the
Right.
ones that really count. So that's
But you
where
have so much media involvement, and you have, like coaches selections. You
yeah,
got people in people like us that may vote on it. So you have a lot of outside influences
right,
that
right.
could be based on popularity, a lot of external things. Popularity, who jersey sells the most, who's most watched television,
Mm-hmm.
who makes a highlight reel. All those things to me shouldn't be criteria. I think to your point, there should be analytics that are clearly defined as to what we are going to use to measure who is the true MVP. But without that, you're always going to have popularity votes. You're always going to
Yeah,
have media influence, and it kind
that's
of
true.
taints, the picture of what a true MVP is. I agree with what you said. Makes your team better. You're the best player on your team, and you win games. That should be three of the utmost criteria for an
Exactly.
MVP. But as it stands, there's so many other factors that go into it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this is my next question. I'm going to throw out some NBA leaders, and this may have changed because
Okay.
I got these statistics a couple days ago, and then you tell me which one stands out the most. So the
Okay.
points per game, Bradley Beal, 32.9. Clint Capella, rebounds per game, 14.2. James Harden, assists per game, 11.1. Nikola, the Joker, just there's some statistic they call it win something, but he's leading in that.
Right.
It may be like an overall category, but he's leading in that at
Right.
8.3. And then my
Hmm.
favorite statistic, TJ McConnell is leading the NBA with steals. So which one of those stats
That's your
stand
boy.
out and why?
I know TJ's your boy.
So,
He's a
Homer,
Pittsburgh dude.
Homer,
So
Homer.
I understand. You said James Harden, 11.1 in assists.
Yes.
That stands out to me the most.
Yeah.
Again, you and I, play point guard, so you understand how remarkable that is to average 11 assists a game. That's crazy. That's 22 points, right? At minimum 22. Not
Mm.
counting three-pointers, and ones. But let's just say for the basic conversation, that's 22 points. And then he gets his 25 a game or whatever he averages. So now you're at 50 some odd points already between yourself and who you're distributing the ball to.
And
That's
guess
huge to me.
what? We're looking at the MVP. I'm just saying.
Right, right,
That
right.
might be the
Now
criteria.
Brooklyn
But
got it, yeah.
you just gave him a good
That,
argument. Come on, Deronne.
right. That's true. That's true. That's true. Now the next criteria would be Brooklyn would have to come out of the East, right?
There you
You got to
go.
win also.
There we go.
That's the third criteria that he has to make sure it comes to pass. You win, get to the finals, or at least in the Eastern finals at worst case.
Right, right.
Then you got a case. But if you don't make the playoffs or you get knocked out early, then it's going to tarnish that a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I got another. I'm just throwing stuff out. Devin Booker. What about his game? Is he underrated? LeBron said he was the most underrated player, the most underrated all-star in the league. Is that accurate?
He reminds me.
Accurate.
He has an argument. I think Booker's been doing this consistently for years.
Years.
He's not a Johnny come lately. He's been doing this for years. But he's with Phoenix still, right? The Suns. So again, you're talking about he's in a market where it's not really, he's not really highly publicized, I don't think, in my opinion.
Right.
But he reminds me of Jamal Murray. Very similar game.
Yep.
In a lot of ways, he reminds me of Jamal Murray. Or shall I say Jamal Murray reminds me of Devin Booker because Booker's older.
Okay.
Solid game all around. I feel like he's a team first guy. Can take over when he needs to take over the game. He also can fulfill roles. If he needs to make more dimes, he puts out more assists. He needs a rebound. I mean, he does a little bit of everything. He's a hybrid. And I think, or is he what they call it, an army switchblade?
That's right.
Yeah. So he does so many things well. He does so many things well. Now, I don't know if he does anything exceptionally well per se.
Okay.
He does a lot of things well.
All right. So all of these things being said, I know we're a long way away from this. It ain't that far probably though. What teams do you have coming out of the East and the West, and then who eventually cuts down the nets? Who you got? See if you're going out on a limb or you got some safe bets. Well, you can do it this way too. The teams you would prefer versus the teams you think are going to do it.
I would love to see this. Don't know if it's going to come to pass. I would love to see the Nets and the Lakers in the final.
Bro,
because of the artillery they bring to the table.
Ooh,
I mean,
that would be
I think that would be a classic. That would be, it certainly would, but that would be my preference to see those two teams go at it.
Yeah.
I don't want to rule out what's Milwaukee. Giannis is with Milwaukee, right?
Yeah.
I like Giannis. Now he's a guy you didn't really mention in the MVP race, but I like Giannis. I think Giannis to me is
always there. He's always there.
He's always there.
Yeah. Once he decided,
and I think Giannis to me, I saw in the All-Star game. You saw when Giannis came down.
He never missed.
He didn't miss, and he went between his legs, dribbling the ball down court twice.
I was screaming. I was like, he's trying to show y'all what he can really do.
He can do it all. I mean, Giannis is another one that.
Like, what?
And what, he's like 6'11"?
The only two big men handling like that. Joel be doing that. It's crazy.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I would say Brooklyn and LA, if I had my choice. Now I'm a big Zion fan because Duke's my team. I would love to see him on another franchise. Okay. I think New Orleans is not going to get it done. I don't care if he's playing for 20 years.
Zion's my favorite player next to LeBron. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Dude, if I'm about to go get my, I got everything. I got the socks, I got the jersey, I got the hat, I got everything. I am all Zion Williamson. He's my favorite. Oh yeah.
He's a freak because when my oldest son Cameron and I, we used to work for Duke basketball, and I remember being at the game and seeing him come in, and we was a high school kid. He came to, it may have been a Syracuse game, and he was walking in. They introduced him. The Duke fans always go nuts when they have a recruit in the stands.
Yeah.
So they mentioned Zion Williamson. He was contemplating going to Duke. He walks out the stands. He goes to the concession area, and it's this big, awkward walking, clumsy-looking dude. I mean, he looks about 6'5", and he looks about 300 pounds. He was really broad, and he kind of walked with kind of like he lumbered almost. And he looked really awkward. Like he looked like a football player.
He's
built like a football player. Yeah. But he's so agile and great footwork and can jump out the gym. It was amazing.
The finish is soft.
And he can shoot the ball too. He can handle.
I'm telling you.
But he does not look the part.
Let me just tell you, LeBron's not in the league.
Yeah.
I'm all Zion. And actually, with LeBron in the league, I'm all Zion.
Right.
Believe it or not, Deronne, this is like the end. I can't believe this. We will bring you back again, and we will have
Sounds good.
Show. You guys, I want to thank my cousin, my guest, Mr. Deronne Felton. I want to give it up to Kiki, Sherman, and Mr. Alan Lincoln. Everybody, give it up and be blessed.
Urban Media Today is your source for entertainment, news, sports, and lifestyle. It's your online resource for health and fitness, providing tips to decrease your heart disease or increase your good spirits. When you can't find who made the top picks in HBCU sports or what part of the country is most exciting or affordable to travel with the entire family, Urban Media Today is there to provide you with all that you need and just a click away. Log on to urbanmediatoday.com now. Find us on social media. Urban Media Today, your lifestyle information and blog website.